Good morning and welcome to the Master Gardener Program Staying Mission Driven 2024 May. Yesterday it was the May Program Coordinator meeting, and it's shocking to me that we're already nearly halfway through the year. It goes so fast. I have a daughter getting married in the fall, and I keep thinking, oh, we have plenty of time. And you know what? It's going to be here before we know it, just like everything else, right? So I hear that the plant sales went really well this year, no different than any other year, really. But I think everybody's done with their plant sales now. The Mother's Day weekend, I think, was the last one, or the last few. So congratulations to all of you on those plant sales. So busy, so fun. I attended the one here in Chelan Douglas and stood in line with everybody else, and didn't get some of the things I wanted, but that's okay. We had a good time and it was fun visiting with everybody. So here's our agenda today. I'm going to do a quick little update on the Washington State Ethics and WSU Executive Policy on Political Engagement, focus on telling our story. Tana, president of the Master Gardener Foundation of Washington State, is going to talk about a little bit about fund development. And then Debbie Bembo and Kathy Lamoureux have a little slide deck they're going to share with you about the Advanced Education Conference. So with the political season underway, and because I've received a number of questions from program coordinators and volunteers, WSU has released a clarifying statement to remind us that we must not engage in political activity while on state time, using state resources. And what has changed for this year in the executive policy is that this now specifically includes volunteers. So in the past, it was an interpretive policy, but now the executive policy includes volunteers. So here's what political activity means. It includes wearing or displaying a politically themed item or article of clothing, including buttons, stickers, clothing such as a t-shirt or a hat, or a picture or a background displayed on your Zoom meeting that supports a candidate or a ballot measure. If this occurs in any workplace or circumstance that might be imputed to WSU outside of totally private areas. So this prohibition is mandated by state law and the guidance of the Executive Ethics Board and WSU policy. I think most of you probably already know this. We've been teaching this in our Master Gardener training since I was part of the program in, county program in 2007. But if an employee or volunteer is wearing a pin, ribbon, hat, clothing, or other item which can be perceived as advocacy for a political party or movement, this should be corrected if the display is evident in face-to-face or Zoom meetings, conferences with constituents of the public, or otherwise allowable as part of personal clothing. So yesterday we discussed this in great detail with the program coordinator meeting. So if you have questions, I encourage you to reach out to your local program coordinator. Tan, I see you undid your mute. Did you have a question?
No.
Okay. All right. So moving on. Whoops, went too far. So in March's Staying Mission Driven meeting, I talked about impact and public value and a need for us to get better at program evaluation and telling a compelling and impactful story. This is something I've been saying for a long, long time. As a reminder, this month, I want to say that there is a difference between program impact and public value that's important to understand. And as I go through the slides today, I hope that you will begin to understand why I'm telling you this. But first of all, if you look at program impact on the left of the screen, it's impact that individual services, so our program, has on the community members who directly participate in them. So in this photo, there's youth participating in a Master Gardener program educational event, and there are perceived impacts, right? They learned something that day and probably are doing something because of what they learned. So they're the ones that are directly engaging with our programs and receiving the impact of our program. And then there's public value. And public value describes the value that our organization contributes to society as a whole. So in this photo, it's a American Public Garden Association photo. But these are just people wandering around in the garden. They might not be gardeners, but they're still receiving the benefit of being outside in nature, participating, just hiking around or wandering around in the garden, those health and wellness benefits that come from being outside and in a garden. So that's the public value. And understanding the difference between these two really helps to facilitate program evaluation. So why do we need program evaluation? Well, there's a lot of reasons, and I'm going to go through a couple here for you. But WSU Extension Master Gardener Program serves the WSU College of Agricultural, Human, and Natural Resource Sciences Resilient Washington vision. Our program provides a secure food supply system. We help maintain natural resources and ultimately support healthy communities, families, and individuals. We know we do this, like intrinsically we know, right? We're gardeners. We know that that just from being in the garden, that we always feel better when we're out there, and we feel better after we're in the garden. But we have to be able to back up what we know with data that supports our claims that our program has an impact and provides public value. So, program evaluation, I kind of have this feeling that many of you are still rolling your eyes at me, like, really, do we have to do this? Really? And I guess if I'm being honest, I wish we didn't have to do it. I wish that, we had everything that we needed to be successful in our program without doing program evaluation. But that's not the case. We need to do program evaluation. And when I talk with program coordinators about this, a couple of them have shared some sentiments with me that I think really resonate. And that Master Gardeners are doers, right? You are excited about teaching what you know about subjects that you really care about. You don't want to stop and plan and think about what you want participants to learn. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. And I also think that doer mentality, that doer focus that Master Gardeners have is part of why we deliver so many wonderful programs and educational outreach events around the state. Another sentiment I hear from volunteers and also from program coordinators, this is one we all share. We wish we had more financial support for our program. Right? I mean, we all want more money. So to get that support, we have to be able to tell a compelling and impactful story that matters to WSU Connors. Connors is that College of Agricultural, Human, and Natural Resource Sciences. and that clearly shows that what we do supports that resilient Washington vision in a way that matters to our county commissioners, to our city councils, to other constituents that have, you know, financial backing for us. I shared an analogy with coordinators and it seemed to resonate. So I'm going to share the same analogy with you as to why program evaluation is so important. So remember back to when you were a kid, or if you're a parent, to when your kids would come to you, ask you for money, or if you were asking for money. Mom, can I have some money? Did your mom just hand that money over? I bet not. I bet mom wanted to know why you wanted that money and what you were going to use it on. And if that money was going to be used in a way that she thought it was important. It's kind of the same for us. Depending on the answer that the kid gave the mom, the kid maybe got the money, maybe the kid didn't get the money. Right? So we have to be able to describe with data to prove that what we provide, that we do provide value to our communities and the general population in order to get mom, or in our case, WSU or outside agencies to give us money.
I hope so.
We have to be able to tell a compelling and impactful story. In addition, program evaluation yields data that we can use to drive the decisions that we make about the educational outreach offerings that we, you know, to meet community needs. The ability to tell a compelling and impactful story will open up new opportunities and collaborations and partnerships with similar organizations. Program evaluation has the potential to increase funding, but we have to have that statewide approach. Evaluate on the same indicators and aggregate that data to show big impact and public value. With that in mind, I have some resources and a process to share with you. And I also want you to know that the Telling Our Story team, we've been working on this for some time, months, really years. And we're focused on keeping this as easy for you as possible. So I want to share those resources, and I'll do that in a minute. But I also think it's important to note that the resources and the process that I'm going to share probably aren't perfect. And there will be glitches and a lot of learning around this. That's okay. It's really okay. We've been working on this for a long time. We've been planning for many months. We've engaged program coordinators. I've been talking to you during Staying Mission Driven about program evaluation. We've been keeping you up to date about logic models. We've been asking you for your input. And now it's time to do. We're going to do program evaluation. We will use the process and the tools to evaluate, and then we'll check. Is this working? How well is it working? And then at the end of the season, we'll look at the checking that we did and review what we learned. And if there are changes that are required, we'll act on those. And if there aren't changes that are required, we'll act on that too. And then we'll plan again. And it's a process, right? So we will continually learn and continually get better at program evaluation. So I want to share some resources with you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here in just a minute. But Debbie Benbow has put together a number of resources, and they're there on our website, easy for you to get to. PowerPoint presentation templates, the Program Priorities Toolkit, lesson plan, examples and templates, ready to print posters for each program priority, icons for the program priorities, Zoom backgrounds. The logic model will be there if you're into that. Evaluation tools are there for you, links to the surveys that we want you to use, and ways to measure knowledge gained. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I want to go right out to that website and show you what it looks like. All right. Can I get a thumbs up or something? You're seeing our program website, right? Is anybody out there?
I see it, yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so
I
this
see
is
it.
the home page of our program website. If you scroll down to the very bottom to the footer, you'll see a link for Program Master Gardener volunteers. And this takes you to a lot of different tools and resources, but what I'm showing you right now is in the presentations, including link to the program priority library. So I clicked into there, and here's the program priority library. And you'll see that eventually we're going to have a library for each of these, each of our program priorities. But right now we have 4 that are live. I'll click into local food. And you'll see the PowerPoint template. You'll see the program priority toolkit. You'll see a lesson plan, a ready to print poster, the local food icon. You can download some various social media graphics, and then get these Zoom backgrounds so you can have a fun Zoom background for local food. And then over here on the right, other helpful resources. There's a little bit of continuing ed here. And then for evaluation, there's the logic model, the survey. This is if you want, this is the Qualtrics survey. This is the PDF version of that survey, so you can see what the questions are. There's a QR code for the survey. If you'd rather not have the QR code electronically, you can print it out on this half sheet handout. And then there's tools for calculating knowledge gained, if you want to use those. But so there's a page like this for water conservation, plant biodiversity, and climate change. And as the year goes, we'll continue working on getting pages like this for our other program priorities as well. Now I'm going to switch back to my presentation here. It might just take a second for me to make sure my screens are the way that I want them. Okay. So I encourage you to go out there and look at those resources on the website. Debbie, would you mind sticking it in the chat for me, please? You probably already did that.
It's in there.
All right, thank you. Okay, so then the next piece that I want to share is about the process. With these tools that I just shared with you, I've asked program coordinators, and now I'm sharing with you in the hopes that you will be willing to help, help with this by engaging with your program coordinator and telling them that you would like to evaluate your next educational outreach event. So the call to action for 2024 is choose for each county to choose at least one local food event and at least one water conservation or one plant biodiversity or one climate change outreach event to evaluate this year. Just one. Ideally, you'd plan with the end in mind. What should participants learn and be able to do upon completion of attending your workshop or class? Use the tools to develop the event. Look at the toolkit, look at the logic model, the lesson plans, use the PowerPoint template. What are the learning outcomes that we want our participants to be able to learn and be able to do, and teach to those? Teach to those learning outcomes, short and medium. And then immediately following the event, ask the participants to complete the short survey. You can do that by putting a QR code on the last slide of your presentation. Use the bit.ly link that has been set up for you and is in the local food or in the program priority libraries. Or you can fill it. You can ask people to fill it out on paper, but then you'll need to enter the data into the Qualtrics survey, because all that data comes to the state level. And then Debbie and I aggregate that data and then use it at the state level and send the county specific data back to the county. But really, once you've given that given the survey to the participants, you're done. That's it. It's easy. Debbie and I will do our work, and then 6 or so months later, we'll send a follow-up survey to the participants to find out what they did because of what they learned. And then in 12 to 18 months, we'll send another survey to that same group of people to ask them about condition change. Did you have so many tomatoes that you gave them to friends and family and to local food pantries? So as an aside, I know this is late in the season, and I know that most of you have already done all of your program development for the year, and it's too late to plan with the end in mind for 2024. That's totally okay. But I encourage you to still use these surveys, because the surveys will yield baseline data for us that we can use to show improvement as we go. So it's not a big deal if you don't plan with the end in mind this year, but I ask you when the winter season comes and you're planning for your 2025 events, please keep these tools in mind and use them to develop your educational outreach activities for 2025. So I'm going to give you an example here. During the April program coordinator meeting, we shared these tools, the surveys for local food. And we asked coordinators to evaluate a local food outreach event. And shocking, thrilled, so excited to say that 5 counties have already used the survey, and we have 30 responses. And with those responses, I've developed a program impact and public value statement, which is this slide and the next one. When we tell our story, we must talk about why we do what we do. We must get those non-gardeners to see that teaching people to grow food is important to everyone in every community across Washington state. We teach people to grow food because research says people who have easy access to nutrient-dense foods are less likely to experience food insecurity. And food insecurity leads to extremely high healthcare costs, $481 billion a year. It leads to decreased academic success and chronic physical and mental health conditions. So what do we do about that? Well, this is what our program does to address the issue of food insecurity. This is the program impact on the folks who participate and the expected public value for all, for those who don't participate in our programs. So I've shared this slide before, and the first time I shared it, the information under program impacts was pretty much made up by me because we didn't have reported impacts. But now, because of those 30 responses, we do have reported impacts. We see a 24% increase in knowledge about selecting appropriate varieties, food, vegetable, and fruit varieties to grow. We see a 27% increase in knowledge on growing those appropriate varieties. So not only choosing them, but I feel better about knowing how to grow them too. We have an 18% knowledge increase on the connection between food access and health and wellness. And a 25% knowledge increase on how to support food security. So these include those 30 survey responses. And this is the impact that our program has had on the people who participate. In 6 or so months, we'll send that follow-up survey to get at what did these people do because of what they learned. Did they donate a bunch of food because they now know that they have a part to play in increasing food security for our communities? If we can get to that, then we have data that supports public value. Right now, we don't. You'll notice that there are italicized sentences in that public value statement. If we can get to those medium-term impacts, those things that people do because of what they learned, that leads to condition change. And that condition change is the public value. Those medium-term surveys will provide the data that we need to prove that our program improves food access and individual and community health and wellness for a resilient Washington. So I hope that you're seeing program evaluation as something that is important in the aspect of a successful and always improving Master Gardener program, and more importantly, something that you can do. You know, we have been able to describe, we have to be able to describe with data that we have public value so that we can tell that compelling and impactful story. Data drives our decision making so that we know that we're meeting the needs of volunteers and of the communities. It opens up new opportunities and collaborations, will increase our funding. We have the resources to do it. I just laid out a process. We hope that it's going to be easy for you. We know it isn't perfect, but that's okay. We're starting, right? We're starting to do it. This is something that has been so important for our program for so many years. I've really been working on it since 2007 when I started in this program as the coordinator in Chelan Douglas. So I'm pleased to say that we're doing this now. I know it's not perfect. That's okay. We're doing it. We're getting data. We're off to a good start and collecting meaningful data that will improve our ability to tell a compelling and impactful story. So before I turn it over to Tana and Master Gardener Foundation of Washington State, I want to thank you for your commitment and dedication to helping with this effort, and look at some questions that you might have. You open up your mic. I was just looking at questions over here in the chat. So I see one about joining forces with disaster airlift response team. I'm not certain who that is, but I want to focus us on the fact that we are teachers, we are educators, we teach people to grow food, and that is our first and foremost purpose. We are teachers. If we have food that is left over from the gardens that we use to teach food growing, then that food gets donated. But it's not our mission to.
If I may add into this, I'm the Grace Harbor coordinator for the DART exercise. We have an annual exercise every year where the civilian aircraft fly emergency food supplies from various collection points to affected counties to practice what would be an immediate response effort in a Cascadia event. This would be the third annual exercise. Right now, we buy food for the practice exercise.
Okay.
And I'm wondering that if a disaster, one, I think it'd be great PR for the Master Gardeners to be able to donate surplus food that meets their criteria to the program. They have Bellingham, Walla Walla, and other collection points. And it's a whole Pacific Northwest effort, all the way from British Columbia to California.
Yeah.
This is the Washington State Emergency Management now involved with it. We've got some retired generals who are connected to the government that are involved. It's becoming a bigger thing. My point on bringing this up is not only could Master Gardeners participate in the exercise by donating food, but also that if there is a disaster, could be a coordination partner to help bring food from unaffected areas to these collection points that then get flown to the disaster counties. I know Grace Harbor is going to be a severely impacted county.
Right.
But I think PR-wise, do you want to get program awareness across the country? This would be a really good opportunity to team up with the DART program. I can get you connected with the guy in charge, which would be Sky Terry.
Right.
But I think it'd be a great opportunity both for the DART program as well as Master Gardeners.
Master Gardeners, yeah. So even just this conversation, right? I said this opens up new opportunities, collaborations, and partnerships. And so absolutely, this is an example of a potential new collaboration or partnership.
And this will get you a lot of TV and newspaper coverage that will help benefit the whole program.
And WSU Extension has a emergency management response director, and I work with him regularly. And one of the things that during COVID, Master Gardener program was allowed to, we were identified as emergency response people because of our local food program priority. So I think this is a natural partnership possibly, and I'd like to look into it more. Thank you for raising it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm married to an emergency manager in Kirkland where COVID broke out and I didn't hear a thing about it. That's interesting. It would be great to get that out to the public because that's a fascinating program, especially watching them try to get food into Israel and Gaza.
Well, June
Wow.
8th, we have our big annual exercise. And it's flying out of a number of different airports from Oregon, Washington State, California, and British Columbia. Perhaps if I can get the people involved connected with the guy in charge with our program, they might be able to participate even in a small way of providing some donated food to the flight because it's mostly practice right now.
Right.
These are civilian pilots who are donating their time, their aircraft, their fuel. And
so Randy, why don't you email me separately?
Sure.
So that we can continue this conversation and I can connect you with our emergency management response person and see what we can do here.
Another quick idea for your program is to utilize the fire departments in the areas for drop locations.
If they have an airport.
Yeah.
Randy, excuse me, did you say Bellingham was a dropped off point?
It's a big distribution point for for Washington State. Yes.
Do you happen to have the contact information?
Yes, I do. I'll put it in the chat.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. Is the 160 household number correct? That seems out of proportion to the almost 100,000 pounds of food donated. So that, let's see, you're looking at this slide right here. 160 households. So I did the math on to get this number. It was Department of Health estimates how many pounds of produce a household eats in a year. And so that's where I got that. And a household is 3.5 people or something. I can't quite remember, but that's where I got it. So I'd say it's accurate.
I'm curious. I have a question about, are we done with that question? Sorry.
Mhm.
About the rezoning of areas, because they say my zone is now a 7 and I wouldn't trust it. I'm not going to go down to the garden center and lose a ton of money because I bought, you know, a plant that they say is going to make it and then it gets 10 below.
Right.
So I'm a little frustrated with that. What is WSU's stance on that? Because honestly, you know, I watch Laura, she's a garden girl that's similar zoned, and her mom too, they've ran nurseries for years and they're not on board with the change of zone. I'm curious about why they did that. Are they just trying to make money in the garden centers? Like, I would like to know why.
The USDA, those are the USDA hardiness zones, and those zones are have been controversial for a long time. You have to remember
Okay.
they're averages.
Okay.
Those
Okay.
are based on average temperatures. And
Okay.
so
So is
we're
it
getting
okay for
colder
me? I
and
guess
we're
I'm just
getting
asking.
hotter.
Right. I'm wondering what is it okay for me to say? Like, can I say I personally wouldn't buy anything that's zone 5 or higher because you have a possibility of losing plants? Is it okay to say that? Because I just
Well,
feel
but
like
I would explain to the client how those hardiness zones are developed in the first place, so that they're averages. And
averages.
that if
Okay.
you are spending money on a prize plant, or
Right.
you know, then to go 2 zones lower.
Yeah, that's what I would say too. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
You are welcome. How would you evaluate food raised in community gardens with the plants supplied by the local Master Gardener Extension Office to include in your totals? I'm not sure I understand the question. Do you want to speak up, Karen? Okay. All right. So Tana, I'll
Good
turn it over to
morning.
you. Thank you so much for being here again today.
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to,
Do you want to share your own screen, or do you want to just use this?
I'll have you change screens for me.
Okay, perfect.
All right. So the information I'm presenting today is not just a 30,000 foot level overview, but probably close to 100,000 feet. And so I'll do that short disclaimer at the beginning. And I'm going to move through this information fairly quickly because I want to make sure that Debbie has some time. Go ahead and start the next screen, Jennifer. So when you're thinking about finding ways to get, whether it's a donor or a volunteer, to agree to something that you need, it's really important to do some homework prior. And the reason for that is because you will have a much greater opportunity for success. And you also will ensure that you keep the climate in which you are asking for support healthy and vibrant over time. So take a minute and think about what you asked for, something you asked for when you were really young. Maybe it was a present over the holidays, or maybe it was something special as a treat. And think about how that felt. Recently, my granddaughter lost a tooth, and she had a great ask for the tooth fairy. And that was that she not only leave her a quarter, but do it for her other 3 classmates as well, who had all lost teeth in the same week. And it was such an easy ask for her. But as we get older, asking for support gets more difficult. So how does it feel to you to ask for something now? And what's changed during that time? Often we lose some confidence in ourselves. Sometimes we worry that what we're asking for might be met by a no automatically. Regardless of that, if we are confident and if we put in place good tools, those asks become easier and we get rid of some of those personal barriers. So the next slide is going to start us on a journey. Go ahead and switch, Jen. Great. So first of all, think about building confidence. There's a very simple formula to use when making a request or an ask. And that formula involves some specific steps. We're going to go over some steps dealing how to effectively solicit support. But I also want to start with a second disclaimer, and that is before you start asking, whether it be for volunteerism or sponsorships or larger asks, say for a specific campaign, make sure that you talk with your program coordinator. Having a foundation and a program and the program membership all in alignment is very critical. So host those conversations early and make sure that they cover the full spectrum of what it is that you want to acquire. There might be restrictions or limitation or details that apply to the funding that you're seeking that aren't readily recognized. So together with your coordinator and fellow master gardeners, you can explore parameters within which you'll work, as well as working with individuals or groups who need to be part of the conversation. So your first step in the actual process of making an effective ask includes identifying specifically what you need, not what you want. And notice that there's a difference. How much do you need with respect to funding or time? When do you need what you're asking for? In 6 months? Within 2 years? Tomorrow? Be specific. And then think about your target. What will convince someone to donate time or money? What facts and figures do you need to gather to make your case? Think about Jennifer's presentation, for instance, this morning, and how you can use the program data to present your story. Are there benefits that come to the sponsor or donor who's agreeing to your request? Recently, we completed work on the sponsor documents for the AEC coming up this fall. You'll see different variations of donor level. You'll see the benefits that donors will receive as a result and how their donation will be recognized. And then finally, practice. And there's a really quick way to practice your ask. And it's called the 2 sentences and a question model. Use 2 short sentences, your elevator speech to describe exactly what you need, followed by a direct, comprehensive question that asks the person or organization to contribute. I'll be sharing an example at the end of this presentation about the 2 sentences and a question. In the next slide, keep in mind that there is background information that you'll use to identify your ask and to further explore it with the person or in the organization you're working with. So build your confidence. I think we went. Yeah, there we go. Thanks, Jennifer. So build your confidence in your ask. You're asking for something important in support of a great cause. Work on your skills so that the example is smooth and simple and has the most potential for success. Then be ready for whatever response might come your way. Next, and this is probably the most difficult part of the preparation, is sit down and create 2 lists. Your first list is comprised of 15 reasons that convince the person or organization to say yes. And the second is 15 reasons that might lead the person or the organization to say no. I can tell you from experience, the second list is harder to come up with because by now you're really thinking about the benefit of your ask. So next, look at each identified statement. Prepare a short, succinct response that's respectful, keeps the ask on the table, and moves the conversation to closure. That way you'll be ready for the kinds of questions that someone may ask of you, the kind of information they may be probing for, and you can have a ready response for them. Some background information that you can pull up very quickly. And then work to make a list of who you'll approach. How does their giving volunteer history align with what you need? What's their mission? And how can you ask to help them in support of their mission or priority while also supporting the Master Gardener program or need? You know, early on when the Gates Foundation was initially founded, it wouldn't be unusual to sit in a meeting where people were thinking about ways to generate money for good causes. And someone would automatically say, ask the Gates Foundation. we can just apply to them. If you watched, you noticed over time, Gates Foundation became more specific with respect to what they would support. And they also created a much more extensive application process. So you want to do enough homework to know how to effectively approach your donor. Guard against donor fatigue or a lack of fill. For instance, I'm a Pierce County mail-to gardener, and here in our area, we start asking about who to go to for sponsorship. It's not unusual for McClendon's Hardware or for Watson's Nursery to come up as first choices. But we've got to guard against donor fatigue. If they are asked too often from the same entity, it becomes easier to say no. And here's a hint. If you or your organization doesn't have a record of volunteerism or donations, now's the time to create one. What is the history of donation or support that you receive from the entity you're thinking about approaching? This is a critical tool that helps plan a strategic and successful campaign. And then lastly, identify tangible benefits that your donor will receive as a result of donating. As I said, if you want a good example, look at the AEC sponsorship page, and that will help you see how to lay out a benefits plan. Next slide, Jennifer. So if the volunteer or donor happens to say yes, aside from jumping up and down and celebrating, here are some specific steps to take. How will the yes be recorded and who will it be shared with? Will the donor receive a reminder or request to sign up for a specific activity or event? How will they be invoiced for the amount that they have agreed to furnish your organization if it's a financial donation? Who's going to contact them? When can they expect a contact? And how will they be contacted? Also, if you've created sponsor benefits, ask which benefits they wish to have. Do they want to keep their identity as a donor or a volunteer public, or do they want it kept private? Will they use any of those perks that are offered, such as discounted tickets, special invitations, perhaps an opportunity to have their company publicized in your material? Offer supportive acknowledgement to build a long-term relationship. And don't forget to follow up with a formal thank you letter and include taxable donation receipt if the situation calls for that action. I've learned a lot about that from our treasurer, Gilbert, and it's been so helpful. Okay, next slide. Dealing with a no. It's not unusual to have probably about half of your asks where someone says, now's not the right time, or I'm not in a position to follow through. But dealing with a no is every bit as important as dealing with a yes. First, be gracious and acknowledge the reason that they indicate they can't contribute at this time, and also offer your appreciation for them listening to your request. Then skip back. Remember the two questions or the two sentences and a question? Use your short 2-sentence phrases to remind them why your ask is important. It's hard work, takes some courage at this juncture, but remember, it keeps the door open. You also should ask for a time in the future to meet with them again. So consider saying something like, I think our organizations have a lot in common when it comes to supporting whatever it is that you're asking for. So I'd like to set up a time in the next 3 months to talk more about a partnership. How should I go about reserving time on your calendar? And then follow through. Make sure that you schedule that time. Write a note to thank them for helping you keep the conversation flowing. And mark your calendar carefully. Next slide. So that's, as I said, 100,000-foot view. This isn't easy work and it takes practice. This is an overview only. For each of you at the local level, it's going to be important that you take this information, if it's useful, and make it your own. Asking has to be well planned, well thought out, and intentional. Simply going and engaging in conversations can actually lead to the number of no's on your side of the asking equation that it can to yes. And then think about how you might prepare your entire Master Gardener team to be able to be skilled and to be able to focus on specific projects or sponsorships or volunteer opportunities where all of you can be in alignment and receive good results. Next slide. So here's the example of the 2 sentences and a question. The Master Gardener Foundation of Washington State and the Washington State Master Gardener Program are raising money to create the first ever Master Gardener faculty position, whose work will strengthen our communities and further engage Master Gardeners in critical research and policy issues. We aim to raise $1.5 million in the next 3 years to realize this program-changing opportunity. Will you donate through a legacy gift from your estate, a personal or group donation, or our 5 for 5 option that spreads your gift over time, helping us realize this most important goal? Now, these probably need work. I usually spend 2 or 3 weeks refining these questions and also practicing them. Next slide. So I want to thank you for your attention. I hope I've left enough time for Debbie. I appreciate what you bring to the Master Gardener program, and I'd encourage you to contact me if you've got further questions about what was shared. Thank you.
Thank you, Tana. So I know we're a little bit after 10. I would like to continue so that Debbie has an opportunity to share about the Advanced Education Conference. I understand if you need to hop off, this is being recorded and will be shared with you. And so I'll turn it over to Debbie, but first, if you have not put your county name next to your name, will you please do so? It makes it much, much easier for Sandra Mangan to check you in and ensure that you get the appropriate continuing education hours logged in GivePulse. Debbie.
Okay, so the Advanced Education Conference is going to be virtual this year, September 27th to 28th. Registration opens it'll be next Saturday, June 1st. And you'll save $30 by registering early. Go ahead to the next slide, please. So this is your chance to learn from leading instructors and researchers. And the benefits of a virtual conference is that it's more affordable. There's no travel, no accommodation to have to pay for. We have over 36 classes, and we have a dynamic keynote that Kathy will talk about in just a minute. And all of these are approved for CE credits, and that's only $3.03 per class. So it's a real bargain for the quality of classes that we're getting. You won't have to miss a single class. You'll have an opportunity to attend all 36 plus the keynote, because all the sessions are being recorded and will be available to participants following the conference for about 30 days. And next slide, please. Our keynote speaker is Rebecca McMacken, and I'm going to let Kathy talk about her.
Okay, we're super excited to have Rebecca McMacken join us. We've been working on trying to get her for a couple of years, and so she was able to work us into her schedule for this year, and we're very pleased. She is she calls herself an ecologically obsessed horticulturist and garden designer, but she does sustainable and resilient garden design. She's been in charge of a garden in New York City called the Brooklyn Bridge Garden, which was built out on pilings out on top of the water. And they attract so much wildlife into a place in New York City that you wouldn't think about. She's internationally known, and she's going to, she has a TED Talk out now that sort of sends shivers down your spine. So we are super, super excited to have Rebecca come speak with us this year.
Okay,
Thanks, Kathy.
thank you. So once again, registration opens June 1st. Early bird price is $109, so you'll save $30 by registering early. Your registration includes all class recordings for 30 days following the conference, and you'll be able to get a lot of great education and earn credits for it in those 30 days. Next slide. We will also have a sharing success section, and we'll be getting in touch with counties with more information about that coming soon. Okay, next. So the way you can help is to, for one, spread the word. We're posting on Facebook regularly, beginning, well, there was a post that went out a couple weeks ago. We'll start posting weekly, beginning next week. So, you know, share those posts. There is also a section on our Master Gardener resource page for publicity helps for you, flyers, Facebook graphics, the slideshow, different things. So be sure to check there. Invite your gardening friends. It's open to the public. Register. That's one of the best things you can do. And then the last thing is to help us find sponsors so that we can continue these great conferences. They don't happen without additional money to keep the price low, so we could really use your help there. And I think that's about it. Does anybody have any questions?
All right. Thank you, Debbie. I will add that the Master Gardener Foundation of Washington State and the Master Gardener program, we're looking at new and innovative ways to host these conferences. They're extremely important for continuing education of the Master Gardener program, but also for that camaraderie and learning from each other and the networking that makes being a part of the Master Gardener program so fun and a lifelong learning adventure. Unfortunately, the in-person singular location conferences have been are becoming prohibitively expensive. Even in my professional life, conferences that I attend now that I pay $1,200 to attend, $1,400 to attend, don't serve food. So the fact that the Master Gardener Foundation of Washington State sponsors this AEC and did so last year in Tacoma and served food for the price that it did was impressive. But part of the goal of the conference is to raise money. And the foundation actually lost money last year on the conference. And so they're looking at new and innovative ways to host the conference for moving forward. One of those ways is a dispersed model where there are a variety of locations around the state where volunteers can come together and learn, but also have virtual plenary session where everybody's zoomed in to the same plenary speaker or keynote speaker. So for 2025, we're recruiting volunteers who want to help change how these conferences are managed and implemented for the WSU Extension Master Gardener volunteers and all garden enthusiasts in a way that makes sense for volunteers to learn and develop those friendships and the camaraderie, but also in a way that that pencils out financially for the Master Gardener Foundation of Washington State. So Tana and I have been working on recruiting volunteers that want to really sink their teeth into what this new opportunity brings and help plan for 2025. If you are interested in working with me and Tana and a few others, Kathy and Debbie have done a fantastic job over these last few years and are willing to help consult, but they're ready to step down. They said they've had their fun and they want to step down and give other volunteers an opportunity to see what else might be out there for how we can manage these conferences. So if you're interested, please let me know. We're looking for you right now. Tana, do you have anything to add to that?
No, just that. We hear from so many people that these conferences are really important. One of the things we want to do is it will be a virtual conference in 2025. We also want to develop a model where there is good in-person sharing wherever possible. So for those of you who volunteer, you'll have an opportunity to help create a new model, an exciting model, and one that you believe will serve the Master Gardener organization in Washington well. So please do step up. We are ready to start that planning for real, and we need your help.
Thank you, Tana. All right, I know we went over. Thanks to all of you who were able to stay on. Our next meeting is not until July. We're not coming together in June. Our next meeting is in July. This is recorded. I'll send out the link via GivePulse to all registrants, and I'll also share it with program coordinators so that you can get a copy of the recording. But as always, it is on the YouTube page. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do, and you can rewatch the video there. Have a good rest of your day. Enjoy the sunshine and the warmth. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.